When George Latimer won the race for county executive last November, it left his Senate seat open. Well, Shelly Mayer is the Democratic nominee for said seat, and she's currently an Assemblywoman representing Yonkers. Now, the two men on your screen, they are the declared Republican candidates. Daniel Shore, a former prosecutor who now works in the private sector, and Sarmo Chasti is a lawyer in Bedford. Now, this seat, it could prove pivotal for the balance of power in Albany. Right now, Republicans have control because a breakaway faction of Democrats have a power-sharing agreement with the GOP, IDC. Then things get even more complicated. Here's how the Times describes the situation. Last fall, Governor Andrew Cuomo, he helped broker a deal in which the breakaway Senate Democrats, known as the Independent Democratic Conference, would form an alliance with the Senate's mainstream Democrats. But the deal, it is predicated on Democrats holding the open seat in Westchester, as well as one in the Bronx vacated by Ruben Diaz Sr., who's now a New York City councilman. Are you still with me? Well, this man, Simca Felder, he further complicates things. A Democrat, but he caucuses with Republicans, and if that continues, the GOP could still be in control, even if the other things described above happen. Shelly Mayer joins us now. There'll be a test on this later.
Thank you, Richard.
First of all, congratulations. I know it's certainly premature here, but the nominee, you like your chances? You're going to give me the standard line. Oh, we got to wait till Election Day and everything else. But you like your chances?
Well, I actually think we do need to really have a campaign and win on April 24th. It's hard to get people to motivated to vote in a special election. So few people vote. This is a critical for the future of the Senate. So April 24th, the day that, you know, is pulled out of a hat, but that's the day. And so it really will matter whether people go out and vote.
Somebody once said, yeah, I'm going to kill him.
But this has been a highly contested seat. The Republicans really thought they had a shot of unseating George Latimer the last couple of elections.
Exactly. And I worked very hard to support George in the Yonkers part of the district. And I think I hope that I have support there. But look, it's a big district. Goes all the way to Bedford and Armonk and Harrison, Eastchester, Tuckahoe, Mamaroneck, New Rochelle, White Plains. You know, there's a lot of places that I have spent my time getting to know, and I'm confident that people see that we have much more in common by communities than we have that divides us, and that they want a strong, progressive Democrat who's good at working with everyone. And I think that's my reputation.
Well, to that end, and I know a lot of Democrats wanted to be sitting in your chair right now as it relates to this seat, but this convoluted mishmash of the different breakaway factions and everyone else and who's caucusing with who, you almost need a scorecard. To that end, do you have a general opinion? If you get elected as a Democrat or a Republican, caucus with your party here. It seems these breakaway sects kind of hold a lot of sway in Albany.
Well, I think we need a path out of it. I think we need a Democratic majority. You know, I'm proud to be in the Assembly Democratic Conference. We have very diverse members. We don't agree about a lot of things. We don't all love each other. We sit in a room together and decide collegially what should be our priorities. The Senate Democrats should do the same. There's a way to do it. I hope that I'll be part of that movement forward to move to a unified Senate Democratic majority. That's what I believe in. I believe people do vote for that, and I think we can get there. I really think this is the beginning of the next phase.
And Andrew, no shortage of huge issues facing Albany this year, especially given Washington.
Well, the biggest is fiscal in terms of closing the budget hole, and there's an enormous. The special election is after the budget cycle,
correct.
So if you win, you wouldn't be able to participate in that. But figuring out where to get the money, and then the state's working to try to fight back against the impact of the tax bill that was passed in Washington, and there are a whole host of social issues that are coming forward as well. So. A lot to do.
There's a lot to do even after the budget. I mean, this issue of SALT, the deductibility of taxes, is absolutely critical in this district. People are getting killed by this provision in the bill. And, you know, I'm hoping, working with the governor and the Assembly and Senate, we can actually come up with some possible fixes to moderate the impact. And that is number one in the budget. But after the budget, we've got a lot of issues. We can really change the way people vote in this state. We can change our laws about sexual harassment. We can change a lot of the laws about the way institutions are funded, including our public schools, outside of the budget. So there's so much we can and should do.
And one thing, we were just talking with Dominic, who's been covering the Percoco trial. Specifically, you don't have to comment on the trial itself, but more some of the things that have come out, whether they're outliers because of the relationship that he enjoyed with the governor or not. Is that a problem Albany has right now, that there potentially is too much insider dealing here, who you know, it'll help with contracts, or even stifling who doesn't get what?
Well, I think in the area of economic development, where the state continues to spend a great deal of money, we have to make sure that we're reviewing the process and we hold to the highest standards. I mean, if we're giving out millions of dollars, and I go to the meetings of the Regional Economic Development Council, and they're doing some great things that create jobs and economic activity. We have to make sure that the process is transparent, that the contracts are done on the merits, not by who you know and who your father knew and your mother knew. And so we've got to do everything we can to make that a cleaner process.
While I have you here, speaking of the state Senate, their new sexual harassment rules, they are drawing criticism. Now, the expanded definition of harassment, adding more protected classes, good things. However, the clause that says reporting a false complaint is a serious act that could be subject to disciplinary action is taking a lot of heat. Critics, including someone you know well, Democratic Conference Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, says it's intimidation that will keep victims from coming forward. The whole thing also drawing more attention to Democrat Jeff Klein. He, the head of the aforementioned breakaway Democratic faction, the IDC. He's also facing harassment claims from a former staffer. For his part, he's denying them. A mixed message of sort here. They're trying to get with the program with the Me Too, but on the other end, they're crafting something that says if you bring a claim and you don't prove it, basically, you got exposure. What do you think about that?
Well, I think they missed a great opportunity. You know, the Me Too movement, it's an exciting and challenging time, but there's a lot of energy for people to step forward and do the right thing. First place, they did it without Senator Stewart-Cousins in the room. I think that's wrong. They shouldn't have done it. She's a woman leader. She should have been in that conversation too. To me, in the Assembly, we have really a far better policy where you don't complain to someone who's chosen by the members of the Senate. You go to an outside lawyer who does not report to the Assembly to have your claim investigated. And we don't have this language about that discourages people by having this language about the false complaint.
You seem to actually have something that works in the Assembly. Why don't you just do the same thing in the Senate?
It is really a much better model. And you know what? It is free of politics, honestly. Right. I know I was there before, and since it's been enacted, there's a real impediment to conduct by knowing you're going to someone who doesn't report to the Speaker, doesn't report to the staff, is not in the payroll scheme, is outside our politics, and it makes a big difference. And the other thing is we don't have this language about the false report.
There had been significant issues with sexual harassment cases in the Assembly in years past. I'm wondering, though, how much of this policy shift do you think is because of Jeff Klein and the allegations against him and his position of power as the head of the IDC?
You're talking about in the Senate
Yes.
policy. I can't speak to why they put it in there. I would just say, as someone who's a lawyer, who's been involved in cases of this sort over many years, it is a discouragement to any person to have express language discouraging you from filing a claim.
And it doesn't look great on top of that either.
No, absolutely. Understatement. Well, thank you.
My
Best
pleasure.
of luck as well.
Thank
All right?
you, Richard. Appreciate it.
Coming up next, Westchester County Airport is a victim of its own success. According to some, the more people use it, the more crowded it gets. I can attest to that. It also, especially if you live nearby, it gets a lot noisier as well. We're going to take a look at the challenges it is facing and the plans to deal with them.